cape.
Welcome, Wargamers, to 2 Plus Tough. My name is Doug, and today we're going to do something a little bit different. You see, with all the changes in the lore coming up, as we know, with Age of Sigmar 2.0 on its way, there's going to be a big consolidation and kind of combining and maybe altering of lore. They've already spoiled that we're going to be able to tell what happened in Gur in the Age of Myth, which tells me that they're going to clarify quite a few things. Age of Myth has long-standing been the big sore spot for me when it comes to AOS lore because it's so vague and abstract. So, to that end, how do I keep doing lore videos until what I'm assuming is mid-June when the new edition drops? And I want stuff that's going to be relevant and stuff that you find exciting. And I'm going to go back to something that I've kind of taken a break at looking at, but I've been really reinvigorated by, and that is the Malign Portents stories. If you're not familiar, Malign Portents, let me go up here. I'm doing a screen share here. Sorry, my webcam is not plugged in right now. They've been doing a series of stories, 2 a week. So we can do sort by most recent is the way I like to do it. And basically, yeah, you can see the dates here. Now, if you're in the US, these are written like they do it in Europe. So I find this kind of caught me off guard at one point. But yeah, there are 2 a week. You can check the dates. And really, these have been chronicling little like stories, vignettes, mini things about the entrances of these new races, what the Malign Portents mean across all the realms. And so when I did that Skaven video, the one where someone came through a gnaw hole into an ocean, that was one of these little snippets. That was the Great Gnaw right here. And so we get a lot of the color and flavor for the Mortal Realms filled in through these stories. This is a fantastic resource if you want to get into AOS lore and not spend a dime. You get the real feel for these things. Well, today we're going to dive into one of these. And I'm actually going to be doing a series on these stories up until the release of AOS 2.0 because these things will be relevant. And so today we're going to take a look at The Great and the Good, which I think is one of the more compelling Malign Portents stories out there. In this story, The Great and the Good, we get to see something that we haven't seen since Warhammer Fantasy Battle days, and that's the real internal strife and the humanization of many characters. This one particularly deals with Daughters of Khaine and what we would commonly know as Free Peoples, or the Empire of the Old World. And what it is it's a huge debate in a dining hall between several leaders of Free Peoples about the admission of Daughters of Khaine into the city. Okay? Daughters of Khaine want to set up a permanent temple in the city and get accepted into the forces of order. Now, if you're reading this story, you see a lot of debates. There's 2 people sitting at a table debating amongst themselves. Can we really trust them? Did you hear about how they fight? They kill their enemies and then basically bathe in their blood. And the Hag Queen, which I'll get a picture of the model here. This is the main protagonist of the story. Is basically explaining this is a religious ritual. It's what we do. The other people are like, well, that's what corn people do too, so you're not helping your case. And this ongoing debate. And really what the theme we see here is, how do we define good, right? They make it clear, they even use the terms like they're forces of order. They're all about order. But the thing is that they're taking this principle of the enemy of my enemy is my friend, and this discussion that you see throughout this story, is about how far do we take that? Right, they counter at the Daughters of Khaine by saying, you're just bloodthirsty. Daughters of Khaine, Hag Queen comes right back at them. You can see this part here, and I love this. And this from a representative of Metropolis, where Stormcast act as judge, jury, and executioner on a daily basis. How many innocent lives have been lost to the hammer of an overzealous knight Excelsior? This friction that we get between people, this kind of internal struggle and bias and things like that, this is the kind of stuff that fills out a world that makes these characters interesting. It's narrative tension that goes a long way to making this a fantastic universe. If you haven't read this, I highly recommend you do. She makes compelling arguments as to why Stormcast are not great people, and they make compelling arguments as to why you should never trust a Daughter of Khaine. That, you know what I mean? But we have to work together is the point. There's this great speech where one of the leaders, they basically take a vote, and it's like 51% vote the Daughters of Khaine in and 49% keep them out. And so the vote sways, and the Daughters of Khaine are accepted to be part of the Society of Order. And even in that speech, the acceptance speech, there is friction and tension, all the things that make stories awesome. Here we go, yeah. 123 in favor, 121 against. So yeah, that's a pretty close margin when it comes to inviting what is potentially the enemy into your den. Now, stepping back, we as the readers have a lot to fill in. If you followed my series on Daughters of Khaine, you know kind of that the fact that Morathi wants to get these guys infiltrated into Order cities. Now, not the average Daughters of Khaine, meaning your average Hag Queen, probably doesn't know this is part of a grander scheme. She probably thinks that we're doing blood rituals to Khaine. Fighting along Order armies helps us achieve that goal. Morathi is sending them in to infiltrate these cities to establish dominance over them, kind of in a subversive way, gain her power base, get people on her side, right? Earn favor, so that when she makes her play, eventually in the long game, to strike down Sigmar and the Pantheon, she has allies. So we're seeing this whole article is the seeds of how that happens. Now, we know this as a reader. Them in this story are debating, and they have no idea. And so that's what really makes these stories fantastic. If you follow along with the lore of the battle tomes, which I try to do on this channel, you see what's happening, the true kind of machinations at play. And so we know what's happening as the reader. Obviously, they don't. I wish we had a Free Guild book yet to be able to see kind of their approach to this, what they see, and what they gain, why they had such a close margin of votes, why half the people don't trust them. We don't have that kind of coloring on that faction yet, but if I did the Free Guild video again, I would certainly include this one. Moving through, I think that's pretty much what stands out. Again, I just want to encourage you, head over to the Malign Portents site. They have, I don't know how many stories now. They have a whole bucket load, and as they've been doing these, they release them as the factions come out. So there was like 3 or 4 stories for Deepkin of weird things that happen near the water, and what the Ether Sea feels and tastes like, and all those kinds of things. So there's a lot going on, and leading up to the release of AOS 2.0, I'm going to be covering these. One last thing I want to touch on. If you have been clicking the links down below, you will see that my website has changed. I used to have a WordPress site that was clunky and terrible, and it took almost 30 seconds to load the darn thing. I moved over to a more stable platform. It's on Shopify, which I do have a store. I sell mats and magnets. But I'm in the process of moving all my content from the blog, from the WordPress site that's very janky, to the Shopify one, a much more stable platform for a few things I have going on in the future. If you want to see everything I do and you do not have Instagram, you can go to videos and photos, and this actually presents the Instagram feed for you along with my YouTube channel. So you can follow along even if you don't have Instagram and don't want to sign up, no problem. Also, like I said, I'm in the process of moving all my articles, so Age of Sigmar collecting box reviews and all that stuff, it is all there. So thank you guys so much for following along. I'm trying to set up channel redirects as I go, and I just appreciate your patience in that. With all of that out of the way, I look forward to seeing you folks in my next Age of Sigmar video. Thanks so much for watching, and happy wargaming. Hey friends, I hope you enjoyed that video, and I want to introduce you to some awesome folks. These are my patrons over on Patreon, and they make this show possible by their direct support of me to buy battle tomes and Black Library books and all the material I need and the hardware support that I need to make this stuff possible. And if you'd like to join them, go ahead and click over to the Patreon page, to the link in the description down below, and you'll be introduced to a really awesome community of people talking about the hobby, sharing what they're painting. I invite them to be part of polls to decide what content comes next. I raffle off every battle tome that I review, and we're having some great fun and discussions over there. So go ahead and check it out. Now, if you can't support in that way, that's completely fine. I'm just so glad that you watched this video here today. And if you have an Age of Sigmar lore question, go ahead and click subscribe and leave it in the comments down below. I read every single question and comment. I respond to as many as I possibly can, but I use them all as inspiration for future videos. So go ahead and do that now. And I look forward to seeing you guys on my next Age of Sigmar lore video. Thank you so much for watching, and happy wargaming.